The hidden power of your ordinary story, why the world needs to hear it. Welcome to the Black CEO Podcast. I'm thrilled to be here with you today, sharing profound insights that have the potential to revolutionize how we view our personal narratives and their impact on the world. These transformative ideas stem from a recent interview with the extraordinary Tonya Kersey, a visionary storyteller and changemaker whose work has touched countless lives and sparked movements of authenticity and empowerment across the globe. I have a story to tell. These 5 simple words uttered by Tonya Kersey carry a weight that's both immense and often overlooked. They encapsulate a truth that's simultaneously obvious and deeply counterintuitive. We all have stories, don't we? We live them every day, every hour, every minute. But here's the paradox that we're about to unravel. While we're constantly immersed in our own narratives, we frequently fail to recognize their true power and earth-shaking potential. Take a moment to reflect. How many times have you dismissed your own experiences as mundane or unremarkable? How often have you thought, my story isn't worth telling? This is where we begin to challenge a profound misunderstanding about the nature of storytelling and its impact on our lives and the world around us. The central idea I want to explore with you today, the idea that Tonya Kersey's wisdom has illuminated, is this. The stories we often consider the least significant are, paradoxically, the ones with the greatest potential to change the world. This concept challenges our fundamental assumptions about the value of our personal narratives and their broader implications. It's a notion that, once fully grasped, has the power to transform not just how we see ourselves, but how we interact with and shape the world around us. Now, you might be thinking, how can my everyday experiences possibly compare to the grand narratives that shape our society? This is precisely the mindset we need to dismantle. The power of a story doesn't lie in its grandeur or drama, but in its ability to connect, to resonate, and to inspire change on a deeply human level. Let's delve deeper into this revolutionary idea. Throughout history, we've seen how personal stories have sparked movements, changed laws, and shifted cultural paradigms. But for every Martin Luther King Jr. or Malala Yousafzai, there are millions of untold stories that have the potential to create ripples of change in their own unique, powerful ways. Consider the story of Maria, a single mother working 3 jobs to provide for her children. On the surface, it might seem like a common tale of struggle, one that plays out in countless households across the world. But within that narrative lies a powerful testament to resilience, determination, and the indomitable strength of the human spirit. Maria's daily routine begins at 4 a.m. when she rises to prepare breakfast for her children before her first shift as a hospital cleaner. She then rushes to her second job as a cashier, only to end her day waiting tables at a local diner. Despite the exhaustion etched on her face, she always finds a moment to help her children with their homework and tuck them into bed with a story and a kiss. This story, in its beautiful ordinariness, has the power to inspire others facing similar challenges, to influence policymakers, and to challenge societal norms about work, family, and success. It puts a human face on issues of wage inequality, childcare accessibility, and the struggles of single parenthood. When shared, Maria's story becomes a catalyst for change, a rallying cry for those who have felt invisible and unheard. Or think about the story of Alex, a young entrepreneur who failed not once, not twice, but 7 times before finding success. We often focus on the end result, the success, but the real power lies in the journey, the failures, and the lessons learned along the way. Alex's first venture, a tech startup, collapsed within 6 months due to a lack of market research. The second, a food delivery service, couldn't compete with established players. The third, fourth, and fifth attempts in various industries all met similar fates. By the sixth failure, Alex was deep in debt and on the verge of giving up. Friends and family advised finding a stable job, but something kept pushing Alex forward. It was the seventh venture, a platform connecting skilled retirees with part-time work opportunities that finally took off. The idea was born from Alex's observation of retired neighbors who were eager to stay active and contribute their expertise. This time, armed with lessons from past failures and a deep understanding of the target market. Alex built a successful business that not only provided financial stability, but also made a significant social impact. These elements of Alex's journey, the repeated failures, the persistence, the ultimate triumph, provide invaluable insights and encouragement to others embarking on their own entrepreneurial paths. They remind us that failure is not the opposite of success, but a crucial part of it. What Tonya Kersey helped me understand, and what I want to impart to you today, is that these seemingly ordinary stories are far from insignificant. They are the threads that weave the fabric of our shared human experience. They have the power to bridge divides, foster empathy, and create connections in ways that grand narratives often cannot. But here's where it gets really interesting, where the true paradigm shift occurs. The very reasons we often dismiss our own stories, their ordinariness, their lack of drama, their everyday nature, are precisely what make them so powerful. It's in the relatability of these stories that their true strength lies. Think about the last time a story really moved you, really got under your skin and changed something fundamental in how you see the world. Chances are it wasn't because of its epic scale or dramatic twists. More likely, it touched you because you saw a piece of yourself in it. You recognized a shared struggle, a common joy, or universal truth that resonated with your own experiences. This is the magic of storytelling that Tonya Kersey's insights reveal. Our stories, in their beautiful ordinariness, have the extraordinary power to create connections, foster understanding, and inspire action in ways that grand narratives often fail to achieve. But here's the challenge, the call to action that I'm placing before you today. We need to overcome our own biases against the value of our stories. We need to recognize that every experience, every struggle, every triumph, no matter how small it may seem, has the potential to impact someone else's life in profound ways. Let me share with you three key insights that emerged from my conversation with Tonya Kersey, which I believe can revolutionize how we think about and use our personal stories. First, authenticity trumps grandeur. In a world saturated with carefully curated social media personas and highlight reels, there's an increasing hunger for raw, honest, and authentic stories. Your unfiltered experiences, with all their imperfections and uncertainties, are more valuable than you might think. They offer a refreshing contrast to the polished narratives we're often presented with, and in doing so, they create deeper, more meaningful connections. Consider the story of Sam, a recovering addict who started a support group in their small town. Sam's story isn't one of overnight transformation or miraculous recovery. It's a day-by-day account of struggles, setbacks, and small victories. Sam shares openly about relapses, about days when the temptation seems overwhelming, and about the constant work required to maintain sobriety. This raw, unvarnished account of addiction and recovery has touched lives in ways that textbook descriptions or sensationalized accounts never could. People in the community who had never understood addiction began to see it through a new lens. Other addicts who had felt alone in their struggles found hope and companionship in Sam's words. The authenticity of Sam's story created a ripple effect of understanding and support that transformed the community's approach to addiction. Second, specificity leads to universality. This might sound counterintuitive, but the more specific and personal your story is, the more universal its appeal becomes. When you delve into the unique details of your experiences, you paradoxically make your story more relatable. It's in these specifics that others find echoes of their own lives, creating a powerful sense of shared humanity. Let's look at the story of Yuki, a Japanese immigrant adjusting to life in a small Midwestern town. Yuki's story is filled with specific details. The struggle to find familiar ingredients for cooking, the challenge of explaining Japanese customs to curious neighbors, the joy of introducing origami to local school children. These specific experiences, far from alienating listeners, actually draw them in. People who have never left their hometown find themselves relating to Yuki's feelings of being an outsider. Other immigrants, even those from entirely different cultures, see their own struggles reflected in Yuki's. The specificity of Yuki's story doesn't narrow its appeal. Instead, it opens up universal themes of belonging, cultural identity, and the human capacity for adaptation. Third, vulnerability is strength. Often we hesitate to share our stories because we fear appearing weak or flawed, but vulnerability is not a weakness, it's a superpower. When you open up about your struggles, fears, and failures, you give others permission to do the same. This creates a ripple effect of openness and honesty that can transform relationships, communities, and even societies. Take the story of Marcus, a high achieving executive who decided to speak openly about his battle with depression. In a corporate culture that often prizes appearance of strength over authenticity, Marcus's decision was risky. He shared not just about his diagnosis, but about the daily reality of living with depression. The effort it sometimes took just to get out of bed, the challenge of maintaining relationships, the constant battle against negative self talk. The impact of Marcus's vulnerability was profound. Colleagues who had been suffering in silence felt empowered to seek help. The company began to have open conversations about mental health and implemented supportive policies. Marcus's story, by exposing his vulnerability, actually positioned him as a leader in a different way, one who leads through authenticity and empathy. Now, you might be wondering, how do these insights translate into real world impact? Let me illustrate with some examples that underscore the power of seemingly ordinary stories. Consider the #MeToo movement. It began with individual women sharing their personal experiences of sexual harassment and assault. Each story on its own might have seemed too common, too ordinary to make a difference. But collectively, these stories created a tidal wave of change, exposing systemic issues and sparking a global conversation about gender, power, and consent. The power of the #MeToo movement lay not in grand revelations or high profile cases, but in the sheer volume of everyday stories. Women from all walks of life shared experiences that ranged from uncomfortable workplace interactions to severe abuse. The specificity of these accounts, the particular words used by a harasser, the exact feeling of fear or shame in a moment of assault, made them undeniable and deeply impactful. As these stories accumulated, its patterns emerged. People began to see that these weren't isolated incidents, but symptoms of a broader cultural problem. Men who had never considered their own behavior problematic began to reflect and change. Companies revisited their policies. The legal landscape began to shift. All of this change, this seismic shift in cultural understanding, came from individuals deciding that their ordinary, everyday experiences were worth sharing. Or think about the impact of personal stories in changing public perception of LGBTQ plus rights. It wasn't just landmark court cases that shifted societal attitudes. It was countless individuals sharing their experiences of coming out, of facing discrimination, of finding love and acceptance. These personal narratives humanize the issue, making it relatable even to those who might not have had direct experience with the LGBTQ, plus community. Take the story of Emma and Lisa, a same sex couple in a small conservative town. They didn't set out to be activists or change makers. They simply lived their lives openly, shopping at the local market, attending community events, volunteering at the local animal shelter. Their story wasn't one of grand gestures or political statements, but of everyday life and love. Over time, their presence in the community began to shift perceptions. Neighbors who had never known a same sex couple personally began to see Emma and Lisa as just that, a couple, not a political statement. When Emma and Lisa faced discrimination at a local business, the community rallied around them, not because of abstract principles, but because they had come to know and value Emma and Lisa as individuals. This is the power of ordinary stories. Emma and Lisa didn't change minds through debate or argument, but through the simple act of living their truth openly. Even in the business world, we see the power of personal storytelling. Companies are moving away from traditional advertising to focus on sharing customer stories. Why? Because these authentic, relatable narratives create stronger emotional connections than any polished marketing campaign ever could. Consider the case of a small, family owned bakery that was struggling to compete with large chain stores. Instead of investing in flashy ads, they decided to share the stories of their customers. They posted short videos and written accounts of regulars who had been coming to the bakery for decades, of couples who had their first date over the bakery's famous cinnamon rolls, of immigrants who found a taste of home in the bakery's international offerings. These stories, ordinary in their essence but powerful in their authenticity, created a connection with the community that no amount of traditional marketing could achieve. People began to see the bakery not just as a place to buy bread, but as a vital part of the community's fabric. Sales increased, but more importantly, the bakery became a beloved local institution, protected and supported by a community that saw its own stories reflected in the bakery's narrative. But the impact of storytelling goes beyond societal changes or beyond business strategies. It has a profound effect on our personal growth and well being too. When we share our stories, we gain clarity about our own experiences. We process our emotions, make sense of our challenges, and often discover strengths we didn't know we had. Moreover, by listening to other stories, we expand our understanding of the world. We develop empathy, challenge our preconceptions, and open ourselves up to new perspectives. In a world that often seems increasingly divided, this ability to connect through stories is more crucial than ever. Now, I can almost hear some of you thinking, but I'm not a good storyteller. I wouldn't know where to start. Here's another counterintuitive truth. You don't need to be a master narrator to share your story effectively. In fact, sometimes the most powerful stories are those told with simple honesty, free from embellishment or dramatic flair. The key is to start. Start by recognizing the value in your everyday experiences. Start by being willing to be vulnerable. Start by sharing your truth, however ordinary it might seem to you. Because here's the thing, your ordinary might be someone else's extraordinary. Your simple story of overcoming a fear might be exactly what someone needs to hear to face their own challenges. Your account of a small act of kindness might inspire a chain reaction of goodwill in your community. Your tale of perseverance in the face of repeated failures might give someone else the courage to keep pursuing their dreams. Think about Sarah, a middle school teacher who decided to share her struggle with social anxiety with her students. Sarah's story wasn't dramatic. She talked about the everyday challenges of making phone calls, of speaking up in meetings, of pushing herself to attend social events. But for her students, many of whom were dealing with their own insecurities and anxieties, Sarah's openness was transformative. Students who had been afraid to participate in class discussions found the courage to raise their hands. Others approached Sarah privately to talk about their own struggles. The classroom culture shifted, becoming more supportive and understanding. All this from one ordinary person sharing their ordinary challenges. Or consider the impact of John's story. John, a retired veteran, started volunteering at a local community center. He didn't have an extraordinary war story to share. Instead, he talked about his struggles with adjusting to civilian life, about learning to find purpose outside of the military structure, about the small daily victories of building a new life. John's story resonated not just with other veterans, but with anyone who had ever felt lost or struggled to find their place. His honest account of good days and bad days, of small steps forward and occasional steps back, provided a roadmap for resilience that transcended his specific experience. These stories, Sarah's, John's, and countless others, illustrate a profound truth. There's no such thing as an ordinary life. Every life is extraordinary in its own way, filled with challenges overcome, lessons learned, and moments of connection and growth. It's in sharing these seemingly ordinary stories that we unlock their extraordinary power. As we near the end of our time together, I want to leave you with a challenge, a call to action that has the potential to change not just your life, but the lives of those around you, and by extension, the world itself. I challenge you to recognize the power of your story, to see that your experiences, your struggles, your triumphs, no matter how ordinary they might seem, have value. They have the power to connect, to inspire, to change perspectives, and to spark action. I challenge you to share your story, be it through conversation, through writing, through art, or through action. Share it with authenticity, with specificity, and with vulnerability. You never know whose life you might touch, what change you might inspire, or what movement you might spark. Start small, share a personal experience with a friend or family member. Write down a challenge you've overcome, no matter how minor it might seem. Speak up in a meeting about a difficulty you're facing. Each of these acts is a step towards unleashing the power of your story. But don't stop there. Look for opportunities to share your story more broadly. Start a blog, speak at a community event, volunteer to mentor others who might benefit from your experiences. Remember, your ordinary might be someone else's extraordinary. And as you share your own story, make a commitment to truly listen to the stories of others. Seek out narratives different from your own. Challenge yourself to find the universal in the specific, the extraordinary in the ordinary. Imagine a world where we all recognize the value of our stories, where we all share openly and listen deeply. It would be a world of greater understanding, of deeper connections, of more effective problem solving. It would be a world where no one feels alone in their struggles, where every experience is recognized as a valuable part of our collective human story. This is the world we can create one story at a time. And it starts with you, it starts with your story. So I ask you, what story are you not telling that the world needs to hear? What experience have you dismissed as ordinary that might be extraordinary to someone else? What truth are you holding back that could be the key to someone else's understanding or growth? Your story matters. In the beautiful ordinariness of your experiences lies extraordinary power. Your story is unique, it is valuable, and it deserves to be told. The world is waiting to hear it. As you leave here today, carry with you this truth. You have a story to tell. And in telling it, you don't just share a part of yourself, you contribute to the grand narrative of human experience. You have the power to create connection, to foster understanding, to inspire change. So go forth and tell your story, share your truth, embrace your ordinary, because in doing so, you unlock the extraordinary power to change the world. Thank you.